Good afternoon, everyone. We're getting started here in just a minute. We're going live on YouTube, and we'll get started here in just a second. Thank you for joining us. My name is Mark. I'm with GovDirections and GovSchool. And this afternoon, what we're going to be doing is talking about state and local portals. This is lesson 3 of our series. I'll actually check the number. I think we got a little typo there. It might be lesson 2, but I've done so many of them now, I'm starting to lose count. But you just follow the progression in each topic. We're getting these set up so that we can have them online for our users so they can come and watch on demand. Thank you for joining us. If you do have questions, hold them to the end, and I'll be glad to answer any questions for those who are live in our audience. We're going beyond SAM.gov. The second series we discussed was about how SAM works, the System for Award Management, and that, of course, is our federal government level. And I encourage you to watch that video. It helps you understand how SAM fits into the federal sector, but that it really is just one portal that you should be watching. In fact, this is where we register for the System for Award Management for federal government contracts only, but state and local governments do look to that UEI and that cage code that you receive because it sends a sign to them that you've been vetted properly. And so going beyond that, you really then you have to start looking elsewhere beyond SAM to find those state and local bids. No state and local bid is posted at SAM.gov. And so that's important that you understand that how that really kind of all works together. The business, and I would just point out there's we've talked about this in an earlier video, but there are a lot of different agencies, some 88,000 we're monitoring along. By far, the number is greater at the state and local government level. And that's where most of us are going to do our business transactions. And in fact, there's probably 20 contracts available to you in most business sectors for every one at the federal level. There's 20, make sure I say that correctly. There's a 20, but at the state and local level for every one at the federal government level, based on statistics we've been keeping for some 28 years. In fact, today was our 28th year anniversary. We've been doing this for a long time. And in fact, this overall market space is at state and local level is about $2 trillion. And governments are actually flush right now at the state and local level. It's going to be the largest spending period, FY 2027, in the history of the United States and local government spending and state governments. They've recently, most of them have met and started that budget. A lot of them are starting today, in fact. And unlike the federal government, where they're oftentimes running at the end of the day at the end of the year, the budget year to spend, most governments at the state and local level start off that way. So July, August, September will be months where they're actually increasing their spending dramatically. So it's important to remember that. At federal level, at the end of the fiscal year, they're often rushing to obligate those funds. State and local don't really quite work that way. So that's an important distinction to make for our members to understand. So always watch for those governments when they first get those funds, and that's a cycle where they're doing that in a budgeting uh, process, usually a year in the making, to get to that point where that budget goes live. And so today they get a whole brand new level of spending that they're able to actually move forward with. Now, of course, a lot of them have to wait for those taxes to come in September and October, so they can be operating on a little bit of debt in between then. But that's when the majority of contracts are let. And so just to reiterate, this market is huge. But a lot of times, all I hear is federal, 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 and a lot of folks just don't. Most leaders really never look at the state and local sector, and I'm just a really big believer that's where your business lies, and so it's important that that you're aware of that. The business problem is that aggregation. The information is everywhere, and we monitor that those 88,000 agencies, but it's pulled together. It takes a lot of time. And then there are these portals that have popped up over the last 10, 15 years that serve a number of governments, probably got 40 to 50 of them. And oftentimes they cause issues that can be to the aggregation, actually can contribute to the problem, the business problem itself. And so it's important that you can go broke, paying all these portals, and you don't really need to do that. Every state now mandates that that information is freely available to you, while they may require you to register to gain access and put that hard sell on you, and you're not required to pay them. Now, that is a huge difference between those types of systems that are working with a government to manage their procurement cycle and a service like ours. We're an aggregator, and an aggregation process, we're pulling them together. It's a business solution to the whole business problem of home rule philosophy, meaning that governments make those decisions as localized as possible, not ever really going to change. In the United States, the local city council just does not want the state telling it what to do, or the federal government telling it what to do. They want to be able to make decisions on how they spend their money as local as possible. It doesn't mean they buy local, but at least when they got to write that check, they understand who they're giving it to, and they're not forced to do that at some federal body or some statewide body, and that's important. So let's get started to talk about these portals. First, why does it even matter? What does this market matter? Well, it is a significant part of the overall government contracting space. I know we're probably looking at about $7 trillion this year. 2 trillion is state and local spending alone. And another big portion of that 7 trillion is really defense department spending. So when you really look at the goods and services that most of us are engaging in, based on that theory of the firm concept, and why does government really hire? Why do any big corporation hire out when they can just do it themselves? Well, the reason why is because they can't do it efficiently themselves, and you have some sort of skill set that they need, and so it's more cost effective for them to spend to actually contract with these. So that overall sector is some $2 trillion in the United States alone. Now, we monitor very aggressively the United States and Canada. Now, today, July 1st, we actually launched in the Mexico economy as well as the Mexico states, and we can continue to expand that in a reasoned process of where our companies can actually serve and make a difference. And so that continues to expand the amount of opportunity that's truly available. The business problem, there's 90,000 government entities at state and local level. And in fact, I think there's actually a little more when you look at the census. You might even get up to a level about 110,000, 120,000 individual governments. And these are governments like, we all are familiar with as counties. We all live in a county. Cities, some of us live in cities. But then they create these bodies, some sort of maybe a hospital authority to create and offer a hospital system in a community, or even maybe a water and sewer authority to deliver fresh and clean water to a community. A lot of different authorities. Oftentimes, these authorities are created for that one purpose of providing a service, but also to be able to just make decision making off the books of that city or county level, so that the community itself can decide where they're going to put a water system at, or maybe a community center or some sort of economic development authority. And then they're going to put local officials on boards to make those decisions. And that, once again, fragments even further the decision-making process. And so monitoring that and finding those contracts becomes a huge problem. And that creates an opportunity because there's less competition, because it's harder for others to find that. Specifically in federal, I was looking at one contract the other day at the federal level, and I think they got about 80 to 90 different responses. I think I saw one the other day, it was like 200 responses. Most local government contracts, they're lucky to get 5 or 6 responses. And so that's a huge advantage to businesses who pay attention to that. It's also the procurement cycles themselves are faster. So the bid is there, the decision making is occurring at the next body meeting of the city council, county commission. They're engaging your transaction quicker to get you going. These are decisions they're making. They've actually went through an elaborate process to get to this point. And so when they make decisions, they're ready to move quickly. The money's there, everything's there to make it happen. They're not usually dependent on future funding. Local governments and state governments just simply don't work that way. And frequently, if you're looking locally, there will be some sort of preference to try to engage you locally. So if you're a custodial firm, or if you're potentially maybe a roofer, they're not looking out into another state, 3 states over, to give a contract to those companies. And so that's a little bit different than federal, where you'll see. I was helping someone with a project in in Arkansas, and then a doctor's office in Oregon won the contract for tree removal. So I was like, whoa, wait a minute. A local contract, they understand, the tree removal company in the community, and makes a difference for them. Then, of course, the big factor is that SAM.gov doesn't list state local opportunities. It's federal only. And while one might think it might make sense to try to do that, it also doesn't make any sense to do it, because all of a sudden you get federal procurement rules in place for those state and local governments, and they just don't want that to happen. So that's not likely to happen anytime soon. And so then, just be aware that they're not going to be at SAM. You've registered, you're waiting for all that opportunity, and then opportunity just doesn't find you there. And so it's important that you fully understand that. What kind of agencies really exist? That we all have a true, maybe you step back into your 10th grade, maybe where you learned all the different levels of governments, but we don't even realize, most times we don't realize there's all this government around us. We like, in the United States specifically, we like a lot of government. And the reason why is because when we come together in a community, or a few people to do something together, um, we want to have control of it. And that's important. That's that home rule philosophy I just discussed. But you got your state agencies, and there you have state departments, somewhat similar across the country. Some are a little bit more aggressive in terms of what kind of governing structures they'll have. But mostly they'll have that Department of Transportation, they'll have Department of Health, they'll have some sort of technical body. It's sometimes working statewide and with local governments. We have a Georgia Technology Authority here in Georgia that works with all levels of government. Education, sometimes it's a statewide education board, sometimes there's county education board, same board, so forth, and almost always the Department of Agriculture. Agriculture is big spending in the United States. Then, of course, cities and counties. Counties, more, there's more fixed. I think there's 3,031 counties, and we're not likely to add new counties. But cities are growing, and the ability to create cities in areas that are growing in the United States, people like that local home rule decision process, and so they do create. I think whenever I was I actually used to lobby for cities for a long time, and we had 512 in Georgia, but then they changed the law. Now I think it's probably close to 600, and so they've increased the number of cities, but it grows, and people vote on that in a way. And they work to provide your public works, your parks, your technology services in the community, the professional services that you typically will see in terms of planning, and also some supports and so forth. School districts, we have a lot of school districts, and those are also the way we educate our children has continued to grow, and will continue to change. There's charter schools, there's other kinds of schools, but beyond the traditional county unit school system. But they have K through 12 supplies, technical maintenance, things are buying, food service, transportation. Of course, we have public hospitals, and also hospital authorities. We have transit authorities of all sorts, bus transit systems that we have here in Atlanta. MARTA, which has been doing a great job during the World Cup. I mean, I've seen images of just packed. There's a lot of folks. Just finished a match here today with England and Congo. They just finished down the street. I'm just about 1.5 miles away from the stadium. That's been an exciting time. But the transit authority does a lot of work related to that, and they'll have security, vehicle recalls, maintenance systems, fuel, technology, construction. Right now, they have a lot of needs for event planning, so forth. Public universities, oftentimes they fall within the state organizations, but in some communities, in certain states, they're separated out. And you'll find that while there's some different structures, the general functioning of governments at the state and local level work in this way: states, cities and counties, school districts, and then the public authorities of some sort. And those can be a little bit more expansive than what you see here. Port authority, like the New Jersey Port Authority, is huge. A lot of transactions occurring here. Government at the local level is ample. There's plenty of it. How do you find your state portal? That's something that you should do after you register with SAM. The first step, always register with SAM. Okay. Then what I always encourage my clients to do is step back and basically go to your state portal and learn about it. So just Google your state, how do I register? Most of them won't require you to register, frankly. But if it does, go ahead and go through that process of the registration and get set up. Okay. You may not ever do business with the state, it's helpful to understand how that system always works. In Georgia, we have a consolidated portal where state and local governments share information. Although even then, you don't see all the local governments on there. I think they're mandated by law to do it, but it just doesn't happen. And then really the enforcement of those type of rules, this is not great. There's nothing there to encourage that. And not likely to do that. They usually provide these services so communities can then on that. But I mean, still, once the city council wants to be able to decide how they do things, and that's going to always be the case. Most states do have a centralized e-procurement. It says most here. I'd probably say about 20 of those out of 50. Okay. And there's some sort of centralized process. Some of them are extremely fragmented. And so you really are, even within the state itself, there's multiple agencies buying. ComBuys, EVA, Iowa Bid, Webs, these are all state systems, and Georgia launches a new one today. It's going to be more, and they're running a little, few days behind, I think, their target date, but next week it's going to be live. And these have these systems that you will go to and you'll learn, and it's always helpful to understand your state's portal. It is completely separate from SAM.gov. You got to have registered. You do have to register in both. I do think that I actually registered in the Georgia portal again today to kind of update my information, but I don't think they asked me for my UEI. But generally, they'll ask you for your UEI, your CAGE code, or your DUNS number, something like that to tie into that. But there is no direct tie between the federal government and states, and I don't see that now. We at GovDirections, we actually tap into your SAM registration, and we understand that, and we link to it when we add your UEI and CAGE code in our system. See here. One pro tip there, just as you know, that we cover every state and all territories in all provinces of Canada and their territories, and now all states in Mexico. So all you have to do is tap into the portals. Each state that you want, we cover each one of them. We have APIs with every single state now. That's growing over time. So if it's posted in a state site, you're going to learn about it at GovDirections. That keeps you from having to go to all 50 states. Guess what? It doesn't stop at the state level. So now there's all these bid portals at the local government level. So you can search your name of the city or county that you're mostly interested in. Now, frankly, this becomes a waste of time. Okay. And there's just so many, there's 95. You can sit there, you can do this all day long, all year long, all your life, and still not get all of them. We are still covering, we've been doing this for 28 years, and we are adding probably 5 to 6 new governments every single day that we're covering. And I have staff of people, that's all they do, is monitor for new purchasing locations for our members. So you can come into our portal, helps you with that process. But do step back and I always say, take the largest city in your area, the county that you live in, search it and understand it, because it's important that you understand how local government really works. How do you register? Most of them you don't. What are these third-party portals? Come to understand them. Don't be fooled by them. Don't need them. But understand how it works, because your business is most likely going to do business with a local government. That's just, I've done 400 contracts in my career. I would think that 398 of them were local governments. 2 of them were state governments, and none were federal. It just doesn't, that's just where the math works. It's a lot more opportunity at the state and local government level. Now, if you sell, defense parts, that's a different area, but most of it's in professional services, some sort, or commodities, or some sort of widget that you have to provide, and local governments are big procurement officers of that. Many cities list their bids just directly on their finance and purchasing page, sometimes on their front page. Most of them will use a newspaper publication. That's how we funded our public notices and help newspapers in our history of our country. So there's still a lot of them there in the back classified sections if they're still there. You also will find that third-party portals used by local governments, but once again, never pay. You just will go broke. Don't worry about that. And even when they offer to provide you a daily alert, you're only getting really mostly the bids that governments post directly by themselves to those sites, and there's always a small universe. And in addition, beyond missing, you come to kind of depend on that, and then you don't even realize what you're missing. Okay. And so it's important that you understand these are portals. You have to use them, you bid, and that's when you really need them. When in doubt, you just pick up the phone and call the procurement office. You'll find that local governments pick up the phone. Maybe federal governments not so much. Agencies and sometimes state, but local governments they do. So if you got a concern, you call them, leave a message, they'll call you back. Don't call them during the bid cycle. Okay, that's when you can't call them. It's a cone of silence. Follow the rules. But if you just have a question, I do business with a local government, you can call them. Set up your state portal alerts. It's worth it. I get one from state of Georgia just about daily for things. They usually don't alert me until there's something of interest to me. The problem with that process, we send you a daily alert telling you if there's something or not. And that the reason why is we try to train you to check it every day. And believe me, you do. If our alerts 30 minutes late, we just recently passed 1 billion alerts. If our alerts are late, people get upset. And so so we stay on top of that. So we have 2 alerts coming at 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock, depending on which area of the country you're in. So I used to get all the complaints about you're dinging me at 3 a.m. You can turn off your phone if you don't want it at that time. But we're every day at the same time. And we also have now the Defense War Department alert, and we also will launch on Monday a set aside alert that not only includes federal set asides but also state and local. So you can have these additional alerts. They'll come to you every single day and then drive you to our website. And you can just go online if you're trained, or you can use our app in the App Store. And now we even use methods to alert you with by SMS. You're basically messaging on your phone. I know a lot of that people don't like that, so you have to opt into it. And so we are, but we are very concerned with that. You call that the perfect match. And this is not just a daily email to you, that when there's a perfect match for you, we will alert each of that. And it's based on a number of different algorithms in our system. You will actually ask to match state commodity codes, very similar to the NAICS code system at the federal government level, North American Industry Classification System. Most state and local governments use a different commodity system. Sometimes it's the United Nations Standardization Product Code. That's the most often that I see nowadays. And then you'll have something called the NIGB, National Institute for Governmental Purchasing. That's a proprietary coding system. And there's probably another 20 different coding mechanisms. We have our own method here at GovDirections, and we actually crosswalk all those systems into the categories that our members ask for. So if we have a lot of custodian companies, so we have 272 industries, and so every bid then crosswalks into that. So, but state local level, you have to learn that. There's probably, 900 commodity codes usually on some of these places, and you have to know which ones are you missed a bid. In our system, we take into consideration that you are not a government contracting professional, or you're not a procurement professional, and you definitely don't know all these acronyms and all these coding systems. So we got people who understand that for you, all graduate level trained individuals who fully understand it, so they'll crosswalk it to every day. In fact, our specialty is taking government TVs and translate it into business. Okay, and that's important. We do it the right way. You know what? Just so subscribe to everything if you want to, and that's frustrating, but that way you don't miss anything. The more codes, the more notifications you get, and you can always discard them. And I know, gosh, I have over 60,000 emails I haven't even read. I think we're all like that these days, but believe it or not, 60,000. Just know that you get a lot of emails. Okay? A system like ours, as I say again, it consolidates, aggregates, weeds out all that stuff. So it's worth it. Okay? And I would just mention our alert is completely free. It has been since we started. Even with alert setup, you need to go check those portals directly. I just checked something from New York. There was a bid that was out. It was not in the portals. And the reason why is somebody put a little typo in the top of the title, and as great of all these electronic systems are, it kicked it out. And they used some fancy something fancy on the actual typo, and it just caused all the havoc. And you can miss them and you don't watch them. So we have people. That's what we do again. Always scraping, always going through and checking out for you. Okay, but always check each portal weekly. Register on state vendor lists. This is important, and when they're available. because they usually reach out to you and they teach you and they educate you. And there's all kind of processes that you can process. You can be involved with things of that way. Make sure that's important that you do. It's typically free. I don't think that anybody charges you. Maybe one or two states charge $20 or $30. It says takes a day, or it usually takes you an hour, if that. Some states require annual renewal. I actually, maybe in a couple of them, don't they usually don't expire you like the federal government. Even the federal government used to become inactive, but unlike the federal government's 1,000 companies a day registering the SAM, believe me, it's a lot. State and locals, they just don't have that many, so they're able to run through those and expire when they need to. In-state vendors generally do qualify for preference and scoring in just about every state in some way. So do definitely reach out to your own state. Our pitch always, this is the reason why we were founded. I used to bid, I still do some, but it was so difficult finding contracts. I said, there's got to be a better way. And that's basically in July 1st, 1998, in the basement of our house, we launched, we had a site called governmentbids.com at that point. And we launched our service and we started operating this aggregation, and it just could continue to grow. And so we aggregate, and our bids come from everywhere, including prime contractors seeking subcontractors. So you'll see those listings. There's 50,000 active ones today, right at any given time. The high number is about 65,000, low number about 35,000. So it's a constant flow of transactions that will match you. There's just simply no need to monitor all 50 portals anymore. It takes up too much time. It's a waste of your time. Time is money. And you can get it through us at a very low cost. Some of it completely, but about 80% of our information is completely free. In our Agora marketplace that we just recently, Agora by GovDirections, Agora is a cute name that allows you to, talks about the Greek marketplace essentially. And it's going to be completely free. If the government posts a bid, you can come look at it and no charge. Common mistakes. Number one is that I'm registering SAM, therefore I'm good. You're not. In fact, you're not good. That's probably the worst. And somebody tells me that, I just kind of say, see you soon. Because you don't know what you're talking about. It's just only federal. Most of us are not going to get federal. 90% of the people I talk to just will never have a shot at winning a federal government contract. They all have a shot at winning a state and local government contract. Watch state and locals. Skipping state and registration before responding to a bid, you're rushing. At the end of the day, I had a client the other day trying to get all the information they wanted filled in before they bid. That was difficult, and they missed the time. So you don't want to have that happen. Go ahead and register now. Only if you're only targeting federal contracts. Everybody else is too. That's where all your competition's contrary there. The likelihood of wins is significantly decreased, and when you do win, you have no margin. Local state governments are typically not that way. They really get to know you. They want success. It's not always driven by low price. They want a transaction that they can be proud of. And believe me, when you have to stand in front of the city council or county commissioners as a procurement officer saying, I'm vouching for this company, let's hire them, that means something to them. So they're going to get to know you. They're going to work with you. They're not going to vouch for you like that if they don't have to. So understand that. Okay. Not checking city and county procurement pages directly, even when you're checking us. If you got somebody who's your favorite, check it once a week. Don't miss. Okay. We cover and we do a really good job, but you always want to see what's going on too. There's meetings and there's events, and you're much more likely to get a transaction through what I refer to as pocket contracts. These are contracts people are walking around with saying, I need somebody. I get some of those frequently. They got a purchasing power up to 25,000. I could bid 24,900 and get a contract, and it never even goes out to market. And that happens more often than you know. And also, speaking of that, making sure that your DSBS profile, that is a federal profile, your dynamic small business search system profile, is up to date and ready for you, because that one there is probably the number one way we learn about small transactions. That procurement officer goes here, searches the keyword, finds your company. Your capability statement needs to be top notch. Even though you're approaching that as if you're trying to win a federal government contract, it needs to be ready for state and local as well. In school districts, there's a lot of money in school districts. They look at your tax bill tomorrow and see that's where all the money's going. And they're actively, constantly, consistently buying. So be aware of those school systems. Waiting to register until you see a specific bid, it does take time. Um, and so make sure you do that right, especially the ones that use the third-party portals. There are a couple of them that I'm like, oh my gosh, man, they should shut their businesses down because they are so difficult to use. Like, why are we making this difficult? It should be easy to bid. And you have to wait and changing your password. There's one group in Texas. It doesn't matter where you register at, you're gonna have to register again and again and again, the same system. And if you accidentally do something wrong in one of them, it impacts all of it. So just be aware of it, give yourself some time. Your plan, make a plan to win state and local. Google your state's procurement portal, start your registration there right after you do your SAM registration. Okay. Set up your commodity codes on your state's portal. If they're using United Nations Standardization Product Service Code, you'll understand that. NIGP commodity code, understand that. Some of them may use NAICS, some of them may have their own. But come to understand which commodity codes you need to be aware of. It's not always by type of bid or common names like our system. It's by these codes, and you've got to make sure you have those sort of a legacy before the ability to use keywords. Keywords are, we should be able to search everything with keyword these days. Identify the top 3 local agencies in your market and bookmark them and learn about them: city, the county, and school. Okay, understand how government works. Or if you do like medical work, things like the hospital authority, you do transit related work, transit authority, water and sewer, the water and sewer authority. Okay, understand that there's more than just the layer of governments we see every day. Seek them out. Call your person officer, introduce yourself. Nowadays, we're going back to meetings. A lot of them were closed during the pandemic, but now they're going back and they're having events, and so it's and try to get to these events and shake hands. Bring your capability statement when you go to those. It's still a number one way to probably get work. And then, by goodness, even get the free alert. If you don't pay us anything, that's fine. Get the free alert from GovDirections. It is the best. I'm telling you that we're not even exaggerating. It's the best alert you'll receive every morning, and you'll count on it. We aggregate all states into that one daily email. And so I thank you today for coming to our session. If you have not watched the previous ones, I do apologize. We had a little bit of problem with the link. There was one number off and no one caught it. And so it is all correct now, but this is the channel. I'm doing all week here, 10 o'clock and 3 o'clock, including Friday. And a lot of us will be off probably, but I'm gonna do there. I'm trying to populate these videos so our members can get access to them. And then next week we'll announce the schedule again. I don't have that right in front of me, but it's on the website. But we're here as just to refresh the things you should have learned today. Daily alerts, we've got them. We serve all 50 states. It's free. We've been doing this since July 1st, 1998. That's just like a demo, July 17th, but it's truly, today is our 28th anniversary. You will not find a group of individuals who enjoy their job more than we enjoy our job. We do good work. We like our work. We help individuals win contracts that change their life. And I encourage you to join our service. So thank you and have a great afternoon.